Hello, and today in this episode, we have the lovely Morgana Rae. Am I saying the name correctly?
Perfect.
Okay, I always try to say it slow so that I don't mess up anyone's name. I always try to get it correct. So good. Miss Rae, Miss Morgana, she is a wealth coach. Now, I know that many people, it's a topic that people don't want to talk about with money, but she is here and she is going to share with us her tips and insights and views and misconceptions about money. Welcome, Morgana. Welcome to the show.
Thank you so much. Thank you.
You're welcome.
Uh, it's funny because, we were talking about what should my title be. And I've been a life and business coach for 27 years now. And somewhere along the way, I realized that the number one obstacle and excuse that human beings share over and over and over again for everything we can't have, do, or be, the number one obstacle is money.
Mm-hmm.
And if we can't address that problem, we're always going to get stuck. It's like the ideal boogeyman,
Right.
the perfect excuse. But when money no longer is the obstacle, then all the real fun stuff shows up. And the stuff about love and relationship and life purpose and mission and fun. That's it's like it's a pain door
Right.
to virtual treasury, like what life is really about.
Mm-hmm.
And there are lots of pain doors. I'm sure you've had a lot of people addressing health on this show, and you probably had a lot of people addressing love. And I think the universe gets our attention for evolution primarily through money, love, and health.
Right.
And money
Right.
gets our attention the fastest.
That is true. That is true. That is absolutely true. And the sad part is that, many couples end up breaking up, and the number one reason is finances. Finances.
Oh my gosh, money plays such a villain role in the lives of almost everybody on earth.
Yes.
And by the way, I'm not just talking about people who don't have enough, which is
Mm-hmm.
the biggest problem on planet Earth.
Right.
But even people who have enormous bank accounts, because I've coached clients struggling with homelessness, and I have coached billionaires.
Right.
And there is drama. It looks different, but there's drama on both ends of the spectrum.
Mm-hmm.
You can have millions and tens of millions and hundreds of millions and still be worried about not having enough. And very often it's almost like an addiction that can't be fed, because what we're really talking about when we're talking about money is our survival.
Right.
We're talking about, are we wanted here?
Right.
Are we valued here? And do we even have a right to exist? Because our, sustenance, shelter, healthcare, all of it is, at least in the United States, depends on money.
Right.
But I've coached clients with lots of money who are legitimately afraid of losing what they have.
Mm-hmm.
So the goal here is absolutely to have abundance, to be free of financial anxiety, and have the resources to be free to, pardon me, focus fully on love, lifestyle, and legacy.
Right.
And wherever you are on the journey, whether you have hundreds of dollars, hundreds of thousands, hundreds of millions of dollars, wherever you are on your journey, we want to get you into a great, safe, happy, lasting, sustainable relationship with money for you and for the larger community, so
Right.
that you can have abundance and you can keep it. Because what I also see happen is some people struggle to make money, and some people are really, really, really good at making money and just as good at getting rid of it.
Mm-hmm.
And if there's money struggle in your life or financial anxiety in your life, there is an underlying insecurity and an underlying what I call a money monster.
Right.
And you can't have a great relationship with money if it's a monster, because you'll protect yourself from the monster and you'll have no idea that you're doing it because it's happening below the surface, below your conscious mind, which is very reasonably trying to make money that you need. So what we need to do is we need to uncover the monster,
Right.
so that we can make it safe and aligned with your values, so you don't have any inner conflicts about making the money that you desire and deserve and getting to keep it. When it's a monster, it goes, it comes and it goes, sort of like a really bad boyfriend who makes you feel awful about yourself.
Now, you know what, that you made some very interesting points. And also, when you have to figure out inward why we have this relationship, why some people we have these relationships with money, a lot of it stems from what we grew up, the money stories we were told growing up, or what they experienced in childhood, with this whole relationship of money. I know for myself personally, it was, the money story I always heard was, money doesn't grow on trees, and, get a good job and a good education. Like your security was based on, your financial security was based on having a good job, getting a good education. Well, we know the economy has showed us that's not always the answer, right? And also, money is the root of all evil. This is what people have been embedded in their heads from childhood. So it's kind of hard, you have to, I want you to jump in, because that's a topic that's a lot of people talk about.
It's really hard. It's hard to be a good person and have money when you've been taught that love of money is the root of all evil. So I want to jump into that specifically really, really quickly. First of all, love is not evil. So love is never exploitative. Love is not cruel or mean or selfish. Love is not scarcity. Love is not fear. Love doesn't harm others. That is never loving. Love is not greedy or envious. That's not love.
Right.
That's the opposite of love. So I really want to clean up that language, because I'm going to be talking about loving money. I'm going to be talking about that big time. But this is what love is. Love is generous. Love is noble. Love is expansive. Love is our best self. There is a glorious selflessness and joy in love. That is the only love that really, really exists. That is love. So about the quote, this is so cool. I have a friend in England who took a class in ancient Aramaic, which is the original language of the Old Testament.
Right.
And the real statement was, the worship of money will cause problems. Yeah,
Right.
no problem with that. That's not what we're here for.
Right.
So we get to be loving, and we get to have a loving relationship with money, but it is a version of money that is worthy of love, because it is a version of money that shares our values and wants to save the world and loves you and is trustworthy, because that is the only relationship worth having. So what we need to do, and this is my wheelhouse, and this is why I've been called the world's leading relationship with money for decades now, a very long time. I found that the best way to change your relationship with money is to go beyond the money story. By the way, the money story is very useful. Like every time we were told we can't afford it, money became the bad guy.
Right.
Money became the villain. So what I found is really true to human experience and our psychology is that money is a person in our lives. I'm not saying a specific person. Money is not your mom. However, our first experience of money is actually through our parents, because they did what money does for us as adults. They told us we were loved or not, that we were worthwhile or not, that we were safe or not.
Mhm.
So any challenge or trauma that you had with parents or adults or authority is going to be embedded in your relationship with life, which is going to show up for your attention in your relationship with money.
Yeah.
The kids who teased you, the teacher who said something horrible to you, the men or women who broke your heart, the friends who betrayed you, anything that has ever disappointed you, the accidents that made you feel unsafe in the world,
Right.
the horrible messages you got from the media about your beauty and your worth and your weight and all of that toxic nonsense. Oh my God. If you have an eating disorder, I want you to put that into this process, because it's been very, very effective. I had a client who had her eating disorder was so severe for 12 years that the doctors looked at her vitals and said, you shouldn't be alive.
Wow.
And nothing she did could make a dent in it until I coached her on her relationship with money. And I'm putting air quotes because I talk about money, but in all honesty, I'm really talking about relationship with life. It's just that money makes so that when we change our relationship with money, not only do clients get spectacular financial results because they no longer have to protect themselves from or reject money, but spontaneous physical healing. I just came across an old testimonial last night from a woman who did my retreat in 2016, because I've been sending out emails promoting my next retreat. And I forgot that her eczema went away. And another woman had a shoulder injury for 10 years and hadn't slept in 10 years. And that went away because its relationship is holographic. You know, it's like, I was talking about, universe gets our attention through multiple teachers, but it's like a bunch of doors going into the same room, whether it's money or love or health or career or whatever. The room inside is our relationship with ourself and existence.
Right.
So, but we're going to call it money because money is an area that needs our love and our healing for our own survival and life on this planet.
Yes.
So is it okay if I jump in? Because I know we have so little time.
Yes, no, go right ahead. You're doing great. I'm taking it all in. And you just a little quick point of what you said about pain and healing and how money can play a part, as well as other things that you can experience growing up. And the actual physical pain that you be experiencing in your body, and doctors cannot find anything wrong. Some of it has to do with those things, and you touched on that. Go right ahead. Continue.
Put that in. So step number 1. And by the way, this is true. All of my glorious overachievers or aspiring overachievers. I'm just talking to anybody who has ever like, oh my God, I'm working at this so hard and I'm not getting the result that I want, whether it's in money or love or health. I focus on money because I have a reputation for financial results.
Right.
And the numbers are good for marketing. But honestly, the love stories and the healing stories are just as important to me and totally, totally fun. So we want to be, when you're doing everything that you're supposed to be doing or that you know you're doing, and you're just putting all that love and energy through practical action, spiritual action, all of it, and you're not getting the result you want. It is my experience being a coach for almost 30 years now, coaching thousands of people and seeing patterns over and over again. It is my experience that you are probably, because I'm hesitant to say always about anything, but you are probably unconsciously protecting yourself from what you want and what you're going for. And it's not a mistake.
Mm-hmm.
You're not crazy. You're not a failure. There's actually a real threat that you've experienced that your subconscious filed away is really important to protect you from. And no matter what you do consciously, your subconscious 24/7 is saying danger, 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 push
Right.
away. So
Right.
what we want to do is find out what the danger is so we can neutralize it so that it is safe for you to have what you want. I believe change happens at the speed of safety.
Mm-hmm.
And when things become safe, change can happen really fast. So step number one is uncovering what is the danger really, uncover the root cause. And so in my experience, it's helpful to start with the money story, but I have never, ever found the real root cause in the money story because money is made up.
Right.
It's like a collective agreed upon delusion of the human race that,
Right.
you know, one person's worth $5, one person's worth 5,000, and they're just bags, you know.
Right. Mm-hmm.
But what does it represent? What does money represent? Is our worth, our lovability, and our safety. And those are like the huge vulnerabilities of being a human being. So what you want to do in step number one is you want to look for anything that made you feel unworthy, not good enough, not safe, or like you didn't want to be here on planet Earth. And I know I mentioned eating disorders. That's very useful because I can say this, I had an eating disorder when I was a teenager, so I'm intimately aware in anorexia. And what it really was such a deep self-loathing and a deep feeling of not being acceptable that I wanted to remove myself, have less of me on planet Earth because I felt so unacceptable because of love wounds and all that kind of stuff. So if you have anything like that, that's a really good one to use. Again, accidents, anything that has ever made you feel ashamed, unloved, not good enough, second best, rejected, that's where you want to go. And just dig up enough to feel really bad. And apologies to all of my law of attraction listeners. I want you to, and this is really, really important, is we are going to get to the attraction part. But first you need to take off that hat and be brave enough to go into the stuff we want to get rid of exclusively. No positive thinking on this part. This is a process of alchemy. And the first step of alchemy is isolating all the stuff that you want to remove. The lead, we're turning lead into gold, but first we need to identify the lead, and only the lead. And there's a huge temptation to go, oh, but everybody feels this way, or it wasn't that bad. And that is like the monster wanting to hold on. So we want you to take off your like positive thinking hat and actually put on a victim hat for a little while, because your victim experience, whatever it is sacred, or it wouldn't have happened. And we want to finally use it for good. Right. Make it a source of power, like extract every gem that it has, because then it doesn't need to hold on anymore, because it delivered its message, it served its purpose, and it can go away. Mm-hmm. Even if you've healed it 1,000,000 times, if there's anything there, you get to go fishing. And not just your life, but your ancestral legacy, the suffering of your ancestors is relevant to your present day life experience. So you use that. Injustice in the world, you throw that in. Anything that that is not acceptable to you goes in here until you have a critical mass of ick. This is enough. Ugh. Right. Get me off this. And then we leap into something really weird, a huge leap of imagination. And now you imagine that there is a single entity who is responsible for all this mess, who is targeting you specifically. It's imaginary. I know that. So you don't have to feel like I'm not saying you need to go insane, but we're going to imagine, what if there was this monstrous person, imaginary person, who was doing all of this to hurt you and hurt your children and hurt those you love, in order to hurt you even more until you no longer want to live. And his ultimate aim is your death, but in the slowest, torturous way. And suddenly everything you've experienced in your life makes sense. Like all of the disappointment, all of the heartbreak, because it's part of this plan to hurt you. Right. This becomes very, very useful, because then it is this person who is all bad. And if your parents did terrible things, this person used your parents to harm you. We don't make it your parents for a really good reason, because in step number 3, you have a choice. This person, we're going to call it your relationship with money. We're going to call it your money monster. Every challenge you've had in money makes sense, because your relationship with money embodies all of these feelings, all of these wounds, all of these things that you don't want in your life. And that's how money has been showing up unconsciously. So now you have a choice. One of you gets to survive, and it's you or the monster. I suggest you choose yourself. And in step number 3, you just want to imagine destroying the monster by any means necessary. You can use a huge nuclear bomb, or white light, or flamethrowers, or just make sure it's gone.
Right.
And there are no like traces or bloody bits left, like completely gone, and you feel it gone. Yeah. And that means when you have a vacuum, and nature abhors a vacuum, and what we're doing by having this like really dramatic full body experience, where there's a reality to a personhood, a monster, that we don't get when we just are thinking money stories. Now it's like real, it feels real, and we're lighting up the neurology in your body and your brain so that we can rewire you to have a different relationship. So when it's gone, completely gone, now we can change the relationship, because when the monster is gone, all that exists is love.
Yeah.
So the new relationship, and you want to feel the emptiness. It may feel fantastic. It may feel scary, but it feels different. And now we invite in a new person. And sometimes I like to say, where do you want to meet your money, honey? And sometimes the client will say, oh, I'm on a beach, or I'm on a mountaintop, or I'm in a field of flowers, or I'm in a cafe in Paris, wherever you just want to be. And then you see this lovely, beloved person walk towards you who loves you. I find a lover archetype works best because there's an equality and an affection and an intimacy between lovers. It doesn't have to be, but you don't want your new money honey. You don't want it to be God. You don't want it to be an angel. You don't want it to be Oprah, because they're all way up here, and we want a partner who just loves you, who is your equal, because honestly, you have had the power all your life to push this person away and break this person's heart. So the point here is, we're not inventing some money honey who's going to rescue you, because that becomes a new monster, because it infantilizes you, it disempowers you. Mm-hmm. What we want is a lover, partner, team player who goes, oh my God, Marsha, you are the most gorgeous, glorious, divine power on earth. What are we going to do today?
Right. Yes.
And
No,
how are we going to save the world today?
Right. I think those were some powerful, powerful steps and methods of breaking loose from that being stuck money story. But and the interesting part of it all, of what you said of play the big victim for a while, the what I see with some people is that they love staying the victim. And I don't know if it's a safety thing, what they just want to stay playing the victim. What would you say for those who just, is having a hard time just not being the victim, just keep
Okay,
playing the victim?
great question. So what happens, and there are a couple of things here. First, there may be a medical issue. If somebody is in a deep depression,
Mm-hmm.
that becomes a medical issue that needs medical intervention.
Mm-hmm.
So sometimes we're just so deep that we have run out of even the hope or the desire to feel better because we don't have it. So that needs to be acknowledged. But what I have found is that the victim experience carries a message of wisdom, and it doesn't go away until the message is delivered.
Mm-hmm.
And sometimes, and I would say very often, it's just like screaming, screaming, screaming to be heard. And it is either the event, and human beings kill events, and we did share we were disbelieved or rejected for, and it just burrows deeper into us as this wound. And sometimes we just need our experience to be validated without question so that we can stop screaming it. Another thing is sometimes the only time we've ever received love, caring, and compassion is when we have been a victim.
Mm-hmm.
So it's not that we want to be a victim. We just want love and caring and compassion or significance.
Yeah.
And if we can get all of that from a better place, we don't need to be a victim anymore. But I think the value of the victim experience that every human being has
Mm-hmm.
is that it humanizes us and gives us the capacity to respect the experience of other human beings. There is kind of a cold, monstrous hubris, lack of understanding or caring of happiness before we've had that experience. And I'm saying from personal experience, when I was 16, I was an easy peasy straight A student, didn't understand people who didn't get good grades, just didn't get it.
Mm-hmm.
Thought it was their fault, their choice. And then I got hit by a car, traumatic brain injury, coma, years of recovering, woke up a week later, thought I was the same. I was not. I could not read a single page all the way through. I would have to go to sleep. I couldn't remember what I read as soon as I read it. I couldn't, I could read a paragraph and not remember what I read, then read a page, not remember what I read. I slowly got better, but it was years. And it taught me that what I'd assumed about other people was completely wrong.
Mm-hmm.
It is not a level playing field for anybody.
Right. Right.
And the plus side is I became more humble, I became more compassionate, and I also became far more intuitive to compensate.
You took the words right out of my mouth. Yeah, you took the words right
Yeah.
out of my mouth. These things that happens is to literally teach you something. As traumatic and awful
Yeah.
as that was, is to teach you something, to learn from that. And I mean, I'm glad you're better now. Glad you're better now, of course. But wow,
Yeah.
that's
Took
amazing.
a, yeah, that was 1983, a really long time ago. And
Wow.
it took many years to,
Wow.
and I'll never say that I'm the same
Right.
as I was then. Some things are worse, some things are better, but I live a ridiculously good and happy life, but it didn't come easy.
Right.
Uh, and so for the person who's stuck in the victim experience, sometimes it takes as long as it takes to cook. And all you can do is keep trying and not blame yourself, because it's almost like a pregnancy. And then you get the gift. So for me, the head injury took as long as it took to recover. But what I do want to say is the person who is in a really rough place has a huge advantage in this process. Think of it like a slingshot. And this is especially for my law of attraction friends. There's a real sad tendency, and it goes back thousands of years. If you look at the book of Job, Job's comforters and air quotes were like, gee, Job, you must have done something really bad. When those of us reading the book know Job didn't do anything wrong.
Mm-hmm.
And sometimes horrible things happen
Right.
because it's a portal.
Right.
But you can't say it's a portal because it's not until the other side. All you can do is go, oh my God, that's horrible. How can I help?
Right.
Would you like to talk? That's really, I think, our responsibility as human beings. I was in that dark place. The good news is it makes my process so much easier.
Oh, yes.
Because the monster is on the surface. Like you're so like ready to change. You don't have to dig that deep to find it. And finding it is the hardest part. You just, it's almost there. You're so ready to change. And you need to feel it. And the monster needs to feel really real, and the monster needs to be really, really gone before we get dessert, which is the money honey. The monster is the portal to the honey. It's the slingshot that creates the tension, the pull to catapult us to real change. We need that kind of drama to rewire. Just like there's all this nonsense about it takes X many days to change a habit. No, it doesn't. It takes one dramatic moment. Like you go the same route every day, and then you see something like really scary and you just are never going to go that way again.
Right.
Because like, oh, ooh, a spider. For me, it's like, okay, not doing that again.
Right.
So once you have the money honey, this yummy person who feels real, the great thing about it being a person, because it reveals so much information, it feels so much more real. It's not an abstract concept. We're not in our head, we're in our heart and our body. I believe, so many people talk about mindset. Great if that works for you. Always, always, always do whatever works for you. And I'm of the opinion that if mindset really worked, nobody in America would ever have to go on a diet again.
Right.
I think that behavior is deeper than our mindset. It is like in our body, it's in our heart. If you're going to go for a millionaire set, go for a millionaire heart set, because I promise you the mind will follow. Right. Make your relationship with money worthy of your deepest affection and admiration, who is on your side, has your values, thinks that you are the cat's meow, and wants to save the world with you. Because then you can be partners without any values conflict. Right. And then you can have conversations, because your money honey looks at you without any of your neuroses, sees your value even when you don't, can look at your circumstances in a much bigger way than you do when you're in your fear. Your money honey helps you be bigger than your circumstances because you are always bigger than your circumstances.
That's right.
And circumstances can be really, really dramatic. Take it from me with the coma and all that.
Yep.
Yeah. Right?
Yeah. Oh yeah.
And then finally, it's the game. It is the game of having, a body.
Right.
Being a spiritual being in a body is a really challenging game. And this is to make it a little easier.
It is.
Because then you can have conversations with your money honey.
Mm-hmm.
And I encourage you your first time round to say, money, what do you need from me so you can stay with me? Because that implies two things. That your money wants to stay with you because your money loves you. That is the rule number one of your money honey. Your money honey loves you and wants to stay with you, or it's not your money honey. And number two is that it's up to that you have the power, you have the body. Money, what do you need from me? What do you need from me so that you can stay with me? Gives the power back to you. You were always the gatekeeper. You just didn't know it because the monster felt like he was in charge.
Right.
But now you're in charge.
Right.
And your money honey will tell you what he or she needs. My money honey, the first time round, said, I need you to love me. Remember, love of money. But this love is like, oh my God, this is the sweet, loving guy. And I've been such a jerk, treating him like I didn't want him and like he was monstrous. And he said, I need you to stop treating me like a monster and mean and breaking your heart for so long. And that brings us to the last step. The sixth step is concrete, measurable action. Because it's very easy to say, okay, I'm going to love you and I'm going to stop treating you like a monster.
Mm-hmm.
But I don't know that I can keep that promise every day. Things come up. Pandemics come up.
Right. Life
and
happens.
The world feels unsafe. I see people doing really cruel things.
Mm-hmm.
And I may need to slay a new money monster.
Right.
Because new information comes in. So what we can commit to is a concrete, measurable action. What that does is it lets you know that the relationship is changed and the new relationship is real. If you want to see real world results, you need to take real physical action, even if it doesn't seem like it has anything to do with money. In fact, very often it doesn't. In this case, it did, but I've coached thousands of people, so I've seen everything.
Right.
And you know it's the right thing by the feeling and how it lights up your money honey.
Mm-hmm.
So in my case, we made an agreement that next time he brought me a gift, I would not treat him like a monster and I would say thank you. And the next day after I changed my relationship with money, because you do the whole thing in one sitting. You don't just dig up the monster and go off for lunch, right? You get rid of the monster and then you get the money honey and before some new monster gets to show up. After I made this agreement with my money honey, in less than 24 hours, 4 people contacted me wanting to hire me.
Wow.
So I got to try it out. I got to try out my new money honey superpowers of being a nice, like kind, loving relationship partner to money. So when they asked me those terrifying questions, what do you charge?
Yeah.
I said the number that my money honey and I negotiated and agreed on that would make him feel loved and appreciated. And I could utter without passing out. And honestly, it was actually really low, but it was a stretch for me at the time.
Right.
So I said my fee with the energy of being a loving partner. And then I did the most difficult thing in my existence, which is then I shut up. Because, and I was just way worse at this than almost anybody, but when you state your fee and then there's silence on the other end, that means they're figuring out how to pay for it.
Right, right.
Yeah. So I could feel like years of conditioning bubbling up in my throat and all sorts of nervous words wanting to come out. And I literally just had to bite my tongue and sit on my hands and just say, this is my fee. And then just be quiet, because I was being loving and I was not apologizing for my beautiful man.
Right, right. Oh.
And 4 people hired me at double what I'd ever charged before in my life. And they kept coming, and I have honestly made millions of dollars since then. I went from struggling to make $100 a month to literally being a millionaire today.
Amazing. That is
which, thank you, which frees me to focus on what matters most. And I may have said it earlier, love.
right.
My husband and I are traveling the world, getting married 100 times in 100 countries.
I
A
love
healthy
that.
lifestyle.
I love
Right?
that. Getting
By the
married
way,
100 times in 100 countries. I love that.
I met my husband when I was 45, after 45-year unbroken track record of romantic disaster.
Wow.
I did the same process. I did the same process on my love monster in 2012, like 9 years after I did it on my money monster. And I met my husband 2 months later. And it occurred to me yesterday that when you have like this pent up honey, whether it's your money honey or your love honey, who's been wanting to be with you for decades, and you've been like, ew, to die at times. It was that dangerous. But it's like it's all this pent up energy that wants to come in. So even with my husband, it came in bigger than I ever imagined. And he was the one who came up with the idea. I got married for the first time in my life. I was 47.
Wow.
We eloped, no witnesses. I was like, okay, married woman, bucket list complete.
Wow.
I didn't think there would be any weddings. So the getting married 100 times in 100 countries, and some of these weddings were ridiculous in Turkey and Bosnia and Bali and just San Marino, day long. The country itself heard what we were doing and say, hey, get married here in our 1,000-year-old castle in costume. And it was in medieval Latin. And at the end of it, they knighted my husband. My husband is a knight of the Republic of San Marino, like ridiculous. So
Oh, wow.
That's what happened when I did this process on love. So,
wow.
And legacy, love, lifestyle, and legacy. Last year, I just honestly, I spent the whole year just, trying to save the world. Took a year off of business and just spent my time trying to save the world. Got some really good results that I wanted. And then, just now I'm here on your podcast, preaching to my people.
Yes, I love it. Oh, this was a really interesting interview. I really enjoyed it a lot. Now, do you have any other final thoughts or anything that you would like to share with our guests before we close?
Yeah. So I tried to cram 20 years of content into however long we've been recording. And nobody's going to get all of it.
Right.
In the first sitting. If you got 20% of what I was putting in here, bravo.
Right.
I invite you to take a breath, come back to this, re-listen to this podcast, but also I have resources for you on my
Right.
website because I understand
And we'll have all of that as
there's
well.
there's a lot that I didn't get to say.
Yes.
Yeah.
Yes.
So my final pearl would, be kind to yourself. And I think it really comes back to just understand that change happens at the speed of safety, that you are your best friend.
Right.
People we beat ourselves up about self-sabotaging, but that's actually not what's going on. You are your best friend. And sometimes we are really, really clumsy friends to ourselves because we don't know better or we don't have the tool we need. So when you think you're self-sabotaging yourself, you're actually protecting yourself from what you want. We want to make it safe for you to have what you want, because then your life changes. And it can change really dramatically in a fantastic way. And please, anybody who has been listening or watching this and you had a shift, please contact me and let me know, because I love that stuff. That's why I do.
Yes. Yes. Anyone listening,
I think
please
that's it.
reach out to her or even post a comment on the YouTube channel. Reach out. I mean, I'm hoping that someone gets some valuable information out of this today, and reach out to you. You know, thank you so much, Morgana. Thank you so much for being my guest on the show.
My pleasure. Thank you, Marsha.
You're welcome.